Hi there, I'm Eva Zacharia, and today's Weddings Made Easy DIY is a computer project. I'm going to show you how to design your own tent cards, also known as Escort cards, on a word processor. So grab that laptop and let's get to it. As soon as I open my word processor, I head to the Layout tab, I set my margins to narrow, and I break my page into 2 columns. Next, insert a text box. I like to just draw something small and then give it a double click and set the measurements that way. These tent cards are going to be 2 inches tall and 2.5 inches wide. After I set my sizes, I move down into the format shaped box and open the line section. I like to use a gradient line because it adds a little bit of extra color. Then you're gonna go to the gradient stop section and change the color to be what you want. And I really like pinks and reds, so I'm gonna use a light pink and a darker red. And I prefer to use the more colors button just because it gives you a lot more freedom in what kind of colors and shades you can choose. So then for this one, I delete one of the gradients, but I keep the one in the middle so that I can have my dark color start to come in a little bit sooner. And then I change the direction of my gradient to have the darker color on top. I also want my guests to be able to see this line, and that doubles as a really easy marker for how to cut these out. So I changed the width to 4. And there you go. Isn't that beautiful? It looks really good. So now you're gonna double click again. We're gonna update the layout of our text box. Now I like to do both the margins and the columns, as well as unchecking move with text or checking fixed position on page. That way when you hit enter to create your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th pages of tent cards, your whole document won't move around. It just makes it a lot easier. Now it's time to add our text. So first I type the name, and then I type the table. And for this one, for my wine themed event, I'm naming tables after types of wine. So this one will be Chianti. Then you go to home, select. I usually make both fonts larger first. Let's try 18, that looks good. Center it. So what I do is I bring them down just a tad from the top, and then use your font sizer to pick a smaller font size to create just a little bit of space between the top of your red outline and your name and table. For this one, you don't want the name and table number in the center because you're going to be placing these inside your wine cork tent card holders. I'm gonna make this a little bit more formal, so I decide to add a Ms, and then it's time to change the font. And this is so easy. All you really have to do is pick a font from the choices that are already available to you within your word processor. I like script for the name, so I'm gonna scroll and choose one that I like. And I have one bookmarked, so I'm just gonna go with that for the sake of showing you all how to do this. And then for my table name, I want something that looks a little more professional. Again, I've bookmarked a font that I like, but just kind of play around and see what fits your personality and the personality of your event. I'm also going to change the font color because I like the burgundy, so you don't have to do this by any means, but it just is fun. Here's an example if you're using a table number instead, really easy. You can put it in all caps or not. And then to duplicate this, you just copy and paste and then drag. And as you can see, when I hit enter, nothing happens because of the setting that we put on our text box. So now what do you do if you have Mr. and Mrs.? I suggest putting the Mr. and Mrs. on the top line if you can swing it. And I also make the space at the top smaller if I'm adding an extra line of text to my tent card. And there's another wine name if you're gonna do that, just as an example. And when you look at them next to each other, I think we can get away with adding an extra space on the single person and still have enough room for our wire. And then just to show you what this looks like, you probably can't quite squeeze 3 across onto this. I recommend just not risking it and just going with 2 by 2. You should get 8 of these per page. Now it is time consuming having to hand type every single name and table and then cut them out, but it's also a really good way to save money because you just need the paper and maybe one color ribbon, and then the time and the patience to cut everything out. And there you have it, 8 per page. I recommend using cardstock or a more heavy-duty paper for this so that your tent card can hold up no matter what happens to it. You can learn how to make a fun wine cork tent card holder on MadeEasyDIY.com. Just click the link in the video description. And share your projects with hashtag #WeddingsMadeEasy and by tagging at #WeddingsMadeEasy on Instagram. Happy typing!